Hello, Bob Wells here, and welcome back to the Undercurrent Stories podcast. And for any new listeners, a warm welcome to the show. Before we start the show, could I just ask you, if you really enjoy this episode, to please share it with any friends and family. It helps the show grow. And we've got a lot of things planned for 2026, so it'd be great if you could do that. So thank you ever so much. Got a very, very special episode today. It's the second time that he's been on. He was on about 4 years ago. None other than Francis Dunnery. Francis is an English singer, songwriter, guitarist and producer, best known as the former frontman of It Bites, one of the UK's most distinctive progressive rock bands of the late 80s. And he had a hit you probably remember called Calling All the Heroes. Since then, he's built a fearless solo career spanning rock, folk, Americana, blues and acoustic music. He's always melodic, always emotionally direct and never afraid to change direction. And in fact, we touched on that in the interview. He's collaborated with artists including Robert Plant and Tony Levin, and he's renowned for his live shows that blend songs with storytelling, humour and disarming honesty. He's also very famous for his house shows. So in this conversation, it's a really, it's only 45 minutes long, but we cover so much. Francis talks openly about creativity, his childhood, nostalgia, collective psychology, his interest in astrology. We do a bit of politics. But most of all, the stories behind his latest project, England's Tales of the Council House Kid. I've listened to the music so far. He's recording the album at the moment, and there's some tracks out publicly available at the moment, and it really is a good listen. Just to let you know that Francis will be coming to the UK shortly. Dates will be on the show notes, and we mention it in the interview. And if you're listening to this after February, don't worry, still worth listening to the interview, and I think you'll thoroughly enjoy it. So stay tuned and listen. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to the show, Francis.
Hello, and how are you doing today?
I'm very well today, thank you. In England, in fact, in England at the moment, it's very sunny. You're over in east coast of the US, aren't you?
It's about minus 15 degrees below zero here.
Oh wow!
It's like literally. I can always tell as well because you can't get warm like the house. I live in. I actually live in a beautiful part of the world, and I live in a private. We have our own police and our own gates, and it's like a holiday place where people come for holidays. But in the wintertime, where it's like second homes, everybody's got their second home, so it's really like a summer place, right? Yeah. And we've got lakes, and we've got our own ski slope, and we've got like all these things that people come in the holidays. But when it gets so, the houses aren't really built to deal with the type of freezing that we've got right now. So when it gets below like 5 degrees, you just can't keep warm. You can't warm the house up. It's freezing here.
Yeah, Well, it's great to have you on, and I've been following you on social media and YouTube, and you've got this new project, England's Tales of the Council House Kid.
Yeah.
And I heard you talking about it, rally choppers and the clothes of the 70s and all. How did the sort of idea evolve into a project?
You know what it was, for real? It started off with one song on the album called It's Christmas Day on Tuesday Night. And I just thought I was going to write a Christmas song. I'd never wrote a Christmas song before. And I didn't realise how hard it was to write. It's really hard because you're always bordering on the edge of cheese. You can be cheesy like in a second, so you have to, it isn't like you can write a song about I love you and that, but when you start going, Santa's coming around, it's like, dude. And so I set out to try and do my own version of Christmas song, and I ended up with some like depressing song about, my mum and dad. I was born on Christmas Day, so I'm a Capricorn boy. So and my mum and dad used to be binge drinkers, so they would have they wouldn't drink for like 3 months, and our house was like paradise. There were, it was like apple pies, and the garden was beautiful, and it was just everybody was around at our house. My brother's bands were there, my sister's friends. Our house was like the central hub, and then they would go and hit the drink for like 2-3 weeks at a time, and it was like brutal. It was because you went from this like paradise. Anybody who's had like parents who drink like that, or even alcoholic parents like that, there's a private suffering that you go through because it's not something you can shout about. You just have to go through it, and sometimes they embarrass themselves, and it's like, you have shame, and like there's all this stuff. And so my mum and dad would always be drinking at Christmas. So I ended up with like no presents, and because they just were just gone. And they were the greatest people you could ever meet, my mum and dad. Seriously, everybody adored them because they were genius people. But as soon as they hit the drink, and it would last for 2 to 3 weeks,
And was that something that you had in your village? I mean, did everybody do that, or was it just your parents?
Well, a lot of people did, but it was, I think, in that Irish Catholic culture that was brought, it's different now. I don't see it as much now, but like back in those days, like in the 50s and 60s, like when my mum and dad were like, 30s and stuff, it was all about the pub. And so people, that was there. But my mum and dad would they didn't go down and have a couple of pints on a Thursday night. That wasn't what it was about. When they did it, they did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was just dreadful for me anyway. So I wrote a song about that. It's Christmas Day on Tuesday night. And, and where this title comes from is because I don't know whether this is the same for everybody, but for me, it always felt better when Christmas landed on a weekend. It seemed like proper Christmas. And sometimes it lands on a Tuesday and it's like a crap day to have Christmas Tuesday night. You know what I mean? And so it came from there. And so I did that song, and then I started to think about my past, and that's what sparked. That was your original question. You said, what sparked the idea? It came from trying to do a Christmas song, and then I realised I had a whole world back then that was just amazing.
I've listened to some of the songs, and I would say they're very melodic. They're very easy to listen to. I wouldn't say easy listening, but they're easy to listen to. There's a bit of folk in there, a bit of Americana, a bit of country.
Yeah.
Would I be right there in the rest of the songs?
I wanted to simplify everything. They're almost like church songs in a weird way. I like that. I like the because even though I'm not like outwardly religious like that, I'm very religious. Being religious it just means that you put your faith in something beyond yourself. So everybody's religious. You can't not be. If you wish for better weather tomorrow, that's the psyche has a religious component to it. We can't not be religious. And so although I don't go to church and, because I'd set fire if I walked in a Catholic church at this point, but I'm very religious in the sense that I love all the hymns I grew up in, and I love the Christmas carols, and I love that. So I love the culture of Christmas. You know what I mean? I have my own version of the Jesus and gods and all that stuff. I have my own version of that anyway. But the album's religious, I think, in a weird sense. It talks about. It's a place to get back to. I think it's a hope that world that we grew up in still exists. I think that's probably what the overall theme would be of the album.
And is the album completed now?
No, it's on a drip feed. So I've got 4 songs left to do. I'll probably do another couple this week.
Yeah.
And then I leave next week. I'll see how many I can get done. In true Francis Dunnery style, I'll probably have 2 left, and I'll finish them when I come back, because I've got 4 weeks in England on a tour, and then I'm going on a cruise for a week, and then I'll come back probably in, I think March the 9th I get back, and I'm leaving next week.
Tour that you're doing is going to be the England's Tales of the Council House Kid tour. Yeah,
and we've got some old songs in there because people often, the whole thing with progressive rock fans is that they don't like progressive things. And I did like an R&B album, and nobody's interested. I do a blues album, like to think outside of your box, to push your own envelopes, which I've always been good at. I've always, had things to push my boundaries with. But, you get shunned and you get kind of punished. They punish you if you don't sound like Genesis from like 1973. There's a punishment that happens. They just don't like it. They're not interested in it. They're not, so you've got to kind of go along with the thing. And so you almost like, I can't just go and do an album, it has to be within certain boundary lines. So I got used to not doing that, but I get punished by my audience all the time.
But you do have a nucleus of loyal followers, don't you?
Yes, but they're the people who think like I do. They're progressive people, but I think, to me, the world's just delicious. There's too many genres. I can't, how can you not do some folk music? Even English prog came out of folk music. That's the difference between English prog and American prog. English prog comes out of folk music, and American prog comes out of metal. It's a completely different way to go at it. But all them early, like Genesis, it's all folk music. It's all, folk mentality at least. They might have twisted around a bit, but it's all, Van der Graaf Generator even, or, any of those early bands. They all arose out of folk music. So, I think that the two. I mean, I'm going to do some old songs, obviously, because you can't, nobody wants to go to a concert and just see new stuff. I mean, I learned that lesson a long time ago. So I'll do some old tunes. We've got some old songs that people are going to pay tickets to come and see because they want to hear. I'll do 3 or 4 of them. But we'll do we'll do 5 or 6 of the new songs, and I'm telling stories all the time.
Is it the same musicians on the album that are coming over with you, or have you got different musicians?
Yeah, we've got Amy and Todd, and so we'll do that, and but it's more like a house concert format where there's a lot of stories, like really funny stories, and some sad ones as well. Like that, my house concerts were probably the most successful thing I ever did in my entire life because I was just telling stories and singing songs. That's the when you people love their stories. People love to latch into stories, and so when you instead of just going out and going, hey, this is a song in C minor, and we're going to go, I love you, baby. You're giving them insight into what the song's about, or you're telling a really funny story that people understand. It's archetypal stories where we all gravitate towards. That's what makes successful movies. There's these basic stories that Carl Jung called archetypes. And what they are, they're these basic stories that everyone has. So, for instance, the hero's journey, which is an archetype, it's a story. So, what happens on the hero's journey is the young, fresh hero is born, and he's beautiful, and he's smart, and he's amazing, and he's the top guy, and then the dark evil monster comes out of the cave and tries to kill him, and they're having a fight, and the dark evil monster, and just before the dark evil monster is just about to deliver the fatal blow, the hero rises up again and kills the dark evil monster. And you see that in Rocky, you see it in Jerry Maguire, you see it, all the great films has a lot. That's one of the archetypes that it has in, because we all respond to that, because that's the journey in our life. We all go through that somewhere. What
can the concert goers expect when they see you on this up and coming tour in England?
It's going to be like acoustic singing, like 3-part harmonies, keyboards, banjos, and mandolins and violin, fiddle. 3-part harmonies with lots of with stories in between about the songs, and slideshows and stuff with our past, with the Magic Roundabout and all that stuff that I'm about to put together now.
So is it fair to say it's going to be fairly sort of 70s based, nostalgic?
It's going to be definitely 70s-ish in terms of the stories. We're going to talk about how we're going to talk about the things we grew up in, like the feeling tone we grew up in when the summers were more golden back then. I don't know why. It was a better feeling in the air, and we had like feather cuts and what was that advert? The day Reginald Molehusband got it right, when he eventually parked his car.
We look back now, and it was quite a an enjoyable time to be brought up. Yes, we had the IRA bombs. Yes, we had the 3-day week and the strikes, and the
Arthur Scargill.
Yeah, and all that, and the candles when the electricity went off. But you look back at it, and it was a bit of fun.
And we had that moment. It's such a precious moment of, Magic Roundabout and Campbellwick Green and Trumpton and all these things that we grew up in. That, our generation we're about to drop off the end of the penny waterfall things. It's like you see the generation above us now, what they call the baby boomers over here. Astrology, we call them the Pluto and Leo generation, but they're dropping off the edge now. They're in their 70s and they're starting to go off, and we're next. I know. Our generation's gone.
Yeah.
And I just thought, there was such a glory to what we were brought up in.
Yeah,
that I think people have forgot in this day and age, especially with, you've got medical worries when you get older. You've got divorces, and you're cynical and the blah. But in them times where we just,
it was great,
we lived in what they call the puer aeternus, the eternal boy, or the puella aeternus, the eternal girl, the vision of life without any responsibilities, we were just out in the fields, and and I think people forget about that, and I think it's a good time to remind people of that now. It was just, it's something we can't get back now, and that was our version of it. I mean, I'm not so sure whether it's so much about the time itself or whether it was the experience of being youthful, because my daughter and my son are going through it now. Their kids like 14 years old, and they're in that, and this time will become that for them. They'll talk about Kanye and like, remember the Kanye song that was like, like all the things they're going on about. So I don't know whether it was actually the time where the 70s were better or it was just a feeling of being youthful. Yeah. But I think, to remember those times before we drop off the penny slot thing, the penny waterfall, we've got about 20 years left and we'll be dropping off it ourselves, and this is what we did. And, we came like a little firefly and we came on and we went off and then we went away.
When you were writing the songs and still are writing the songs, is it quite an emotional process for you? Are you sort of remembering your parents and everything? Are you recounting stories that you suddenly, does a story then spark another story off? Is that how it works?
I don't write songs like that. What happens is that I'll pick up a song, right? I'll pick up the guitar and then I just start singing. I was talking about this the other day in my podcast about Robert Plant, is that I just start singing and your unconscious delivers lines for you. I don't know what, I'm not smart enough to actually write down some of the lyrics I've written. I couldn't think that in a million years. I just couldn't think that. I don't have that in my intellect. But I just start singing and I hand over the controls of that to another part of maybe to my essence personality, I don't know, or you call it your soul or your spirit or your unconscious. I don't care what you call it, but, I finish them off with my intellect. They'll deliver me some like killer lines and I'll think, wow, that's amazing. Like that, and then, but I'm not like, I didn't come up with it.
So that's the lyrics. What about the melodies and the chord structures?
Well, I only have 3 songs. I just do the same 3 songs over and over again, like every songwriter. You just have to find out which one it is. I just do 3 songs. There's just certain feelings I like to get to, and I like to deliver. There's a certain feeling tone that I like to have in my songs. That's, sometimes you have them more than others, but that's what I'm basing the music on, is that how it makes. I have a feeling about something, and I try to deliver the music so when you listen to it, you feel that way. Mm. I don't know whether it's accurate or not, but that's what I do. That's what I'm trying to do.
And what sort of reaction have you had so far about the new material?
Oh, everybody loves it. This is the first time anybody's ever loved all my albums. It's really odd, actually. I'm not used to it. They usually hate them when I first deliver them, and then like maybe a year later they go, dude, that album's my favorite album now. Yeah. They don't really, because I change the picture frame all the time and they don't like it. I'll do like a blues album. It's just the same 3 songs. It's only in blues format, and I'll do an R&B format, or I'll do no guitar, I'll do all guitar, drums, no drums, rock, no electric, no harsh solos, no blab. I just change the picture frame to keep my own creativity up, because if I just do the same thing, I just play this. If I don't change something, I'm going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's more disturbing to me than writing an album that somebody doesn't like. It's like, but I think I've been pretty consistent in the song melodies and stuff like that. It's just that, some people want their steak delivered on a blue plate, and sometimes I give them on a white one and they don't like it. But it's still steak.
On the creative side, you mentioned that you just pick the guitar up and something happens. You're almost like a vessel for some creative force. Do you have is it any time of day? Do you find a certain time of the day better than others? How does it work?
I've never really thought about that. I don't know, but I don't know. I actually don't know, but I think I actually don't know. That's a good question. I have never studied it to see if I'm doing that at a particular type of day. I just know when I get hold of the guitar and I start to play something, I'm not like it. I remember Robert Plant does that. That's what he does. I remember he does that. And there's certain, I can tell artists that do that because they're not thinking. Some people are really studied and they're thinking. I can see that they're thinking. They've got like nice rhymes and, it goes out in a way like that. Other people are just kind of part of some flow that's coming out. And I remember working with Robert, and that was one of the things that I noticed about him is he works the same way as I do. He just starts singing.
Yeah.
I'm in the mood for the melody. I'm in the mood for the melody. I'm in the mood. He didn't sit down and go, right, I've got this song that's going to go, I'm in the mood for it. He just starts singing. And also I think that when you do your unconscious stuff, like when you start to sing like that and it comes from another place like that, I think you're channeling something that it's no different than what Adolf Hitler did or what Robert did with someone told me there's a girl out there with love in her eyes and flowers in her hair. If you imagine we're walking around on this lake of feeling. Imagine all the water. Imagine it's a lake and you're walking around on it. And in the lake is what everybody's feeling the same thing. So like after the First World War, all the Germans couldn't say anything, but they were all feeling disgruntled because after the First World War, not only were they defeated, but they also had a lot of stuff taken off them, and they were punished, and so they were all collectively not particularly happy. And that unrest that existed in the lake, Hitler became a lighthouse, and he started to say that out loud. There's a lot of people over here now, like a lot of white people over here. There's some people like Nick Fuentes and people like that. They're starting to say what white people are thinking for years, that a lot of this stuff is ridiculous, and you can't really say it. I literally don't care. I couldn't give two hoots what people, that woke nonsense. I don't care. I'm going to say what I want to say. And so, but you're not allowed to say it. And then it goes, when somebody starts to say it on the outside, it's almost like somebody lighting a match and it becomes flammable. And because it's actually the voice of the collective. So it wasn't just Hitler said that, it was everybody thought that, even though they might have not have wanted to say it, but he just gave voice to what the collective was feeling. And the collective psychology, you can see it in things like football hooligans. When, you have bankers who have gone to public school and they're very nice chaps and all that stuff, and then they get involved in a 600 people and they start smashing cars up because they're overtaken by the collective psychology. So Robert Plant sang, "Someone told me there's a girl out there with love in her eyes and flowers in the air," which contained the wonder of that entire generation in the 70s. They were all thinking that in one way or another, but that just gave voice to it, and it lit up, and it was like, wow. Of course, he channeled that from somewhere. He didn't think that. That's what came out of him. And he said it like Hitler. And he caught fire like it did. And that's what's going on now. So with the white people over here are all, I'm watching the collective. I study collective. I study the herd mentality. I've just done a financial book on it, actually. I've just done an astrological financial book where I study the stock market and how they do. I can see what the herd's going to do. It's the shoal. It's the flock. It's the herd. I study that. I study those movements. And they correlate to certain planetary conjunctions or aspects. And so I'm watching, you watch the collective. You can, if you're savvy enough, you can feel what the collective's doing. And so the white people now are just getting completely fed up, and there's going to be a few people come out, and if it does, it'll light up. It's going to light up. People have had enough, and you can see it. And so nobody wants to say it, though. You can't say these things. It's like, and if you want to know who's controlling you, have a look who you can't criticize. That's the best way to do it. That's who controls everything. Who you can't criticize controls everything.
So you got the finance book?
Yeah, I think it's doing all right, actually. Although it's really cheap. It's only $4.99. They don't cost a lot of money. Ebook.
Is it to do with investing?
Well, I don't know anything about the stock market, but I was interested to see that when I study, because the way that we study cycles, that's what all astrology is. It's like I would say to you, plant your seed in April because the sun's going to be in Aries.
Yeah.
Now, you could say it's got nothing to do with being in Aries. Well, that's how we know where the clock is. We look behind it, and behind it is the constellation of Aries, and we say, yes, but if you plant it there, we know it's going to grow because we've studied it for 4,000, 5,000 years, and we know it's going to grow if you do that. We know by looking at the past. That's why I knew there was a revolution. I called the revolution in 1998. I wrote a song about it, and everybody said I was insane, which I probably am, but that's beside the point. I knew because in 1776 to 1798, when Pluto went into Aquarius for a period of 20 or 30 years, there was revolutions going on. There was Catherine the Great's reforms. There was a shout for fairness and equality. The Irish were at it. The French were at it. They were chopping people's heads off. The Americans had the war. So I know there's going to be unrest when Pluto goes into Aquarius this time. And that's what we're in right now. People's rights. Everybody wants their rights and the freedom and the blah. And what will happen is we'll chop people's heads off for a while, and then we'll go back and we'll go, oh, well, that wasn't a particularly good idea, because we get caught up in the collective psychology. And then when it's all over, you're just left with this sticky residue of all the crazy, nasty stuff you've done because of it. That's what happens with all these, like with COVID was the same thing. Make people go to jail, kill them, tell them they can't, ban them from shops, tell them they can't. That's collective psychology.
Does it surprise you how people are able to get caught up with the current zeitgeist?
Not really. I mean, there's, you can basically, 50% of the world are kind of masculine, 50% are feminine. You could say it like that. Feminine is, the qualities of feminine are things like negotiation, caring, nurturing, those sort of things. Masculine is very dominant, and it's kind of like, it's adventurous. It takes risk. It's risk conscious. So it's like, let's go over the hill and see what's over the hill. The masculine says that, and the feminine says, no, stay right here. Just stay here. I don't want to see what's over the hill. Just stay here. And so those two different types of people is what make up the political parties. Usually have one, like over here, the Democrats are feminine and the Republicans are masculine. And so it's kind of like living with your dad or living with your mom.
So I guess you could liken that to music, especially the music you're doing. You're not staying safe and sound. You're actually exploring different genres, and you're going over that hill to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a good relationship with my feminine. My feminine's very kind of intricate. Like the Stones are masculine, the Beatles are feminine. The more intricate you get, the feminine's more intricate than the masculine. So I have both qualities, but I'm also like an alpha male. I cut my own channel through the forest. That's how people go, alpha male's got to be tough. And like, no, that's not what alpha male is. It's some quiet guy who's really skinny on the side, but he's cutting his own path through life. That's what masculinity is. That's what alpha male is. It means that you're running your own shop. You're not following anybody's rules. You're just doing your own thing. It's alpha. It's like I'm out here on my own. I'm creating a new path through the cornfield. That's what alpha is, I mean, I used to knock people out anyway when I was younger, but that's beside the point. That was just fear. That's fear. Yeah. That's just terror and fear, But I can also negotiate, and I'm very gentle. I'm very kind to people. I try to help people as much as I can, but I'm not beyond like smashing you over the head with a chair if you come into my house. You know what I mean? If you come into my house and you're going to cause, you better kill me, because I'm definitely taking you out. Like there's no doubt. You know what I mean? And so those two qualities, that masculine feminine thing, I flip between the pair of them actually. And, and so when you go to the left and you do the whole feminine thing, then the right go at you like you're the enemy, and vice versa. So
it's a shame we don't learn from history, really, society, isn't it?
Well, it's just, you're just stuck with two different types of people, unless they're going to be like, if you don't do what Jung said, Jung said, know thyself. He said it for a reason. To be individuated means that you're outside of the attack and the meanderings of the collective consciousnness of the shoal. Like, so you're not doing like the herd bolts left. The herd is bolted left, and you're individuated. So you're not going to just run. You're going to look to see what's coming and go, actually, it's just a tractor. I don't need to bolt. And the tractor's got food in it. I'll just stay here, and the tractor comes up and he throws the food off and you eat the food, and the herd's bolted because it's gone with the collective consciousness. That's what being individuated means. It means that you don't have other people's feelings. You have a mind of your own, so to speak. And not in a kind of like a nasty, aggressive way. Not like that. Just like, I look at the masculine people, and they don't understand how to negotiate. I look at Arab culture, for instance. When you look at the Muslims, their basic culture is extremely masculine. You can see what it is by how they treat their women. Like the women have a second-class role, so it means that their feelings or their feminine isn't important. And what's important in the masculine-dominated world like that is the tyranny and the smashing down, and we will fight, and you have to. So that's why when you're negotiating with those people, you have to negotiate like that, because they don't understand negotiation. They think it's weak. As the masculine thinks the feminine is weak. It's the same thing. It's just the same thing. And then you get the other side of that is the woke left, who think that we should just allow the crocodiles to come into the house and eat. It's okay because the poor crocodiles have to eat. It's like, no, kill the crocodile. It's like that's as ridiculous as the other. So those two extremes exist. And, most people are kind of around about the middle. But to recognize threats when they come in like a virus, like the Islamic fundamentalists are not gonna like negotiate with you. They're gonna smash you down. That's they're not being quiet about it. They're being honest. Like, we're gonna beat you down and we're gonna make you do stuff. So if you want that, if you go at that with feminine, you've no chance. So you need the masculine guys to do it.
Hi, it's Pop here. Just a quick interlude. Hope you're enjoying this episode. And if you would like to hear more interesting interviews, we have over 150 episodes to date with many fascinating guests talking about a wide variety of topics which include music, history, philosophy, fitness, food and drink, adventure, contemporary culture, and many, many more. I'm sure there's something that you'd really enjoy. So all you need to do is just visit undercurrentstories.com or search Undercurrent Stories in any of the podcast platforms. And now back to the show. Yeah, we certainly have a lot of world leaders who they're known as the strong men, your Trumps.
Trump is everybody's. Trump actually doesn't do that much. He doesn't do that much. He just says stuff that drives the left insane. He basically does no different than what Bill Clinton did or Obama. Like, they deported way more people than he did. But that thing, Trump derangement syndrome. I didn't vote for him or anything, but I would prefer the world he's gearing towards rather than that other one we were headed towards. You've no idea what it was like over here. It got insane. It really did. And most musicians like myself, we're pretty left wing. We're kind of, for the more, I've voted Democrat all my life. I've never voted for Republicans, but I look at it now and I'm like, dude, like they've swapped roles. They've gone down the other way. They've literally swapped roles, it seems to me. But people don't like the great orange Hitler. They don't like him at all.
No. I think if you talk to most people and ask them questions, if you're in the pub or something, I think a lot of it is media driven. And I think with social media, you're sort of almost forced to have an argument where you're either left or right. But actually, there's no room for that because it's so one or two dimensional. There's no room for that actually sitting down with somebody and having a conversation, looking in the eye. Actually, you're not that far apart.
I think, I like people, I really do like people. I don't really it's not really people I care about. It's not like the people. I don't care, because in America, especially in New York, which I loved, that was like, everybody was there. So I enjoy that, but we were all gathered around that American flag. So I don't like being dominated by other cultures. That's what I don't like. I don't, it's the cultures like I don't like. I like my own culture. I love it. I love American culture. I love it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's really weird. America gets a bad rap for a lot of stuff. Like, there's loads of things that America gets a bad rap for. Like, how did the Spanish get away with not being accused of genocide in South America? They butchered everybody, but nobody says anything about it. Or the Muslims took way more slaves than anybody ever did, but nobody says anything. It's all just, America's racist, and it's probably the least racist country you can think of over here.
What's the general feeling amongst people about the latest thing that's taken place in Venezuela, and also the Greenland thing? What do most people think that you know and you've spoken to?
It depends who you talk to. If you talk to white liberal women, that's what's running most of the protest over here. There's no. When you go to the protest over here, there's never any black people there or Japanese. It's not that. It tends to be a lot of elderly. White liberal women, like like from like 40, 50 upwards, like 50, 75, and they're going crazy. So if you talk to them, they'll say that it's absolutely a sham, that they want to bring Maduro back, who's the dictator guy. They want him back in, and it's disgusting what Trump has done. And they, in the meantime, the Venezuelans are celebrating in Venezuela. They're all celebrating Venezuela. They don't want to be under that because they're skint and they're under socialism. They're absolutely skint. They've got nothing. I was in Venezuela like 15, 20 years ago in Caracas. It's dreadful over there. And then they went through that boom where they did really good for a while and there was a lot of hope. So if you talk to the left, they'll say that. The right say they're really psyched that Venezuela's doing great, and and that they're going to use the oil money to help all the people in Venezuela. Now, and then behind that, you have businessmen. So what happened was, then there's people like me who say, well, there was a bunch of American businessmen who went in there and built a structure, an oil structure, and then them dictators come in and then they took it off them. And so they're just looking for revenge. That's what I think it is. I mean, I don't know whether it's true, but I mean, that's what I would do. So it's the masculine, feminine thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like to be masculine is to go like, hey, you know what, dude? We've got the biggest, most powerful army in the entire world. Shut up, and we're going to do this. And I don't give a damn what you say. This is what we're doing. And the left go, you can't do that. You can't ever do that. You know.
I will just say at this point for listeners, you're hearing Francis talking about masculine and feminine. And we'll link it to the previous episode, I think, because you talk a lot more about your interest in astrology. Could you just give a quick summary of what you do with astrology now, Francis? I
just study it. I don't believe in it or anything. I study it, but it just seems like ridiculously accurate. You know, it's like I don't really come out of that type of mold. I'm more of a kind of like, you know, quantum physics guy. I like Gary Zukov, the Dancing Wu Lee masters, or like, you know, I love. And so astrology to me, I only got into it because I tried to prove my friend wrong. Unfortunately for me, or fortunately, whichever way you want to put it, it wasn't wrong. It's like that. And so masculine and feminine they're available everywhere. They're available they're the differences between us. That's why when you say, what do people talk about in them things, it's just that one side's masculine, one side's feminine, and they wear those glasses and they see everything through those glasses, as we do in the world.
Yeah, yeah. And what would you say the album is, the new album is? Is that masculine or feminine or both?
I think it's feminine.
Is it?
I think it's feminine. I think it's it's very intricate. Like it's because it's gentle. It's a gentle kind of. It's like it's a truth telling. I don't know. Maybe is fessing up your stuff. Is that kind of? I don't know. That's a good question. I would say feminine though. It's churchy.
It sounds like it's going to be fun at these concerts with your. I mean, I know you're very humorous anyway with some of your gigs, but it sounds like this is going to be real fun this tour.
Oh, the stories are great. No, you'll laugh. There's no way you'll get through that and not laugh. No chance. There'll be belly laughs because there's some absolutely hysterical things that everybody will relate to. You know, it isn't. It's not going to be like I'm not a serious guy like that. I don't. No. You know, like there's two ways to identify with. If you identify with your kind of world self, you know, or your ego world, where it's all about getting more stuff. I want more stuff. Give me more stuff. And then there's like your essence personality, which is behind that, which has got nothing to do with more stuff or accolades or, you know, I mean, they gave David Bowie an accolade in 1974, but what is that? You know, it's like, so somebody says, here, have this piece of metal and you're great, and it doesn't really mean anything. It's like, you know, like the pursuit of your own life and your own life path, finding out where your pollen is. You know, when a bee goes chasing pollen, I say this all the time. Nobody tells the bee what to do. It just knows to go for the pollen. Well, we have that too. We have our own type of pollen. And so to try and find, where's your pollen? That's a good name for a book. I'll write that book.
It is. I like that.
Where's your pollen?
Even. Yeah, where's your pollen? You got a new title there, Francis.
Yeah.
And what date does the tour start in the UK?
I'm doing a few house concerts to warm up. I've got my 2-page up. Hang on, here we go. So it starts on the 5th of February in Wolverhampton. You're going to see the first night, so you'll get.
Yeah, we're going to Wolverhampton. Yeah.
I don't know what on earth's going to happen on that night. You never know, because the first night, I think the first 3 might be a bit weird. They'll be good though, but I won't know what I'm doing as well as I do by the time I get to Hull or any places like that. But I've got 10 house concerts to do. I've got like 8 concerts to do. I've got a wedding to go to. I'm recording an album with somebody. I'm going to visit family. You know, this is going to be a non-stop insanity boom. And
are there still tickets available?
Yeah, there's tickets. Well, I don't know actually. I think so. Yeah, I think there's tickets. They're just kind of, you know, some of them are sold out, but it's a risk to do this. It's very masculine what I'm doing, because it's not something that people do. It's it's like again. I think it's progressive. I think it's completely progressive what I'm doing, but the progressive guys don't think that. But if I went out and did a night of Genesis or a night of Pink Floyd, they'd be like, yeah, we're going to go to progressive. We're all progressive. It's like it's all just down to identity. So
we'll put a list of the dates on the show notes, Francis. This episode will be out before the show start.
Great.
And I'm loving the music. I think most of your followers all your followers will love the music. It's very, I wouldn't say different, but it's a very relaxing sound. It's great.
I think there's no angst in it yet. I don't think there's angst. I think there's a because after I did my last album, The Big Purple Castle, which was full of angst, it was a reckoning. It was about divorce and my kids, and there was a lot of those sort of like that kind of those difficult emotional kind of little pockets of 2 to 3 years that we get into, as all humans get into them at some point. Yeah. And so I think after the angst of that, I think it healed something in me. I think I was kind of relaxed somewhere. There was something in me that was like tight like a fist, and it's kind of just like relaxed. And I think these songs are coming out of that. That's what I think. Well,
it's certainly a good vibe. So we're looking for, and I hope the tour goes well. And thank you ever so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.